everybody. Welcome to the show. This is Michelle talking to you live from the studio. That's what she looks like today.
That's not what I look like. I don't look like a bubblehead. Oh, my glasses.
She likes when I throw stuff at her.
I'm surprised you didn't throw it at me.
I did throw it at you.
Well, you suck at
it. I did miss you completely, didn't I? Okay. We're ready there. Thank you for joining us. If you're listening, or are we just talking into cyberspace to ourselves? I have no idea.
We are talking into cyberspace by ourselves. And I have YouTube on.
Oh, and
too.
YouTube.
Yeah, I have YouTube.
Thanks to our YouTube listeners, watchers, all 4 of them.
All 4 of them.
Yeah.
Hi, 4 YouTube listeners.
Okay, are you ready to go?
I am ready.
All right, here we go.
Hold on, we can take a drink.
Yeah. Get it out of the way. Here we go. All right. All right, here we go.
Where'll you be going?
Texas?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Go on, make it happen.
And now here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome to Mallet and Michelle, where we talk Texas life, local stories, and today how Elon Musk is basically a space cowboy rescuing astronauts. Well, we're just trying not to get blown away in this crazy wind.
Oh, no kidding.
I am Michelle, and this is Steve. Hey, Steve.
Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Welcome.
I thought Elon Musk was the devil.
Well, whatever.
Depends on your point of view, I guess, doesn't it?
You know what I think is funny is the people that are destroying the Teslas that people are driving.
Isn't that funny?
Elon already got his money.
That's true.
Elon's not even the person in charge of Doge. I don't know why they're all pissed off about, but if they're not pissed off about
I think
something.
for a lot of people, it doesn't take much.
It doesn't.
They actually wake up every day looking for something to be upset about.
They're triggered.
Yeah, let's thank our sponsors.
Oh, yes. Let me look at my little cheat sheet because I can't even remember what I had for breakfast. Nomic Power Solutions.
Our favorite South Star Bank and all the great people over there.
I love South Star Bank. Jovi Belterra.
Which is a great place to live if you're 55 years old and up.
Oh, I can't live there yet, but you can.
Soon enough.
Soon enough.
I would love to live there.
Mallet Integrity Team.
Yeah, best real estate business in town.
That's right.
Oh, gosh, I just made some more enemies in the real estate community by saying that.
Hey, if you guys, whoever's listening or on the podcast, y'all need to check out Steve Mallett's article that he writes in the Outlook. They have changed their publication. It used to be every month, and I think it's now every 3 months.
I think it's every other month, now, 6 times a year.
But Steve's out there making friends and taking names. It's really funny. I love it.
I wrote my last one, and it's accurate. I always try to make them a little bit edgy. And I read that one, and I sent it in, and I go, damn, dude, you're an asshole.
One of my favorite was when you said, make sure your real estate agent is not also your Uber driver, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah. They're lifeguards in the summer and selling your house in the winter.
True.
I was reading this story the other day about daylight savings time, which I freaking hate. Can we please stop moving the clock every 6 months?
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed in President Trump because he campaigned on, we're doing away with the changing the clock every 6 months. And somebody asked him a couple weeks ago, and he said, well, there seems to be people that like it and some people that don't like it.
It's a 50-50 thing right now, I think is what he said. He said 50% of the people like it, 50% of the people
so
don't.
That's the thing. What he's saying is 50% of the people like it when it's in regular time and 50% of the people like it in daylight savings time. There's like 90% of the people that hate changing the clock every 6 months.
Well, at least he's listening to the people.
He's listening to the people. If you're listening to us, President Trump, please do it. In the fall, let's just stay with daylight savings time. Wouldn't that be amazing?
If President Trump is listening to us, we're screwed as a country.
That's true.
Please don't listen to us.
This article that I read, and it makes a lot of sense to me. Let's just keep the clock on daylight savings time, it's fine with me. I don't care, one or the other. And if businesses need to adjust, then let the businesses or the schools adjust. Why does the whole country have to do something because schools want kids to be coming out of school or going into school in the daylight, or businesses want to open at certain times? Let those businesses adjust if they have to.
I agree. I I like this time. This is the time
This
that I
is
like.
daylight savings time, which is fine with me. The only thing I don't like is trying to go to bed at 9:30 in the summer and it's broad daylight outside. But that's my little rant about daylight savings time. I know nobody cares, but I hate daylight savings time.
You don't go to bed at 9:30. You go to bed at 8:30. So stop giving.
It's true.
Stop telling the rest of the
I was trying to sound a
world.
little more normal than just I really am.
Didn't work. I don't know if you can hear this raspiness in my voice, but this wind is killing
It's been bad.
my throat. So I was at the Houston Rodeo this past weekend, and I saw that there was a huge fire in Fredericksburg, the crabapple fire.
We saw it when we went camping.
Oh, man. And so apparently almost 10,000 acres were affected by this. As of yesterday, when I was researching the story, it was only about 65% contained. One
The one in
firefighter-
Fredericksburg?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And something
because
else
we could
popped-
see the smoke way up in the sky, but I don't see any smoke over
Yeah,
that right
so
now.
something else popped up late yesterday. One firefighter has been injured. It caused numerous evacuations, and it forced the Central Texas, I guess, electrical grid to cut power to that affected area so that they wouldn't spark more. Gillespie County judge issued a declaration of disaster, which allowed officials to evacuate, close roads, control access to the area, and also, which I found was interesting, FAA, they issued a temporary flight restriction over that area.
They should,
also.
because it was thick gray smoke.
It was crazy. So, please follow your burn bans. Pay attention to those damaging winds. And if you have a trailer or an RV, especially right now with spring break, pay attention that nothing is dragging along those. And those idiots that still smoke cigarettes, don't throw them out.
We were at that thing where the communications director for the Hays County Fire Department
Oh, yeah.
was.
I wanna have her on. Uh-huh.
Yeah, if she'll come. She did that whole presentation, and then she said, "I'm bashful." I'm like, "You're not bashful." Anyway, she said, like most of the time when you're driving on 290 and you see those little fires that are maybe 100 yards by, she said those are almost always caused by chains dragging down by trailers. They drag on the ground, little sparks go off into the dry grass and set the grass on fire.
You know if your chain is a dragon because you see it, right?
Probably not. Well, it depends. Once you start moving, maybe the trailer moves a little bit and the chain it's 2 inches above the ground, and then the trailer moves a little bit and it taps the ground every once in a while when you go over a bump or something. I don't know, but just tighten up the chains so they don't cause fires.
Pay attention. Well, we had Bonnie on a couple of weeks ago. She was our wine aficionado, and it brought something to my attention about Fredericksburg and all the wineries and everything that are there. And I was doing some reading, and it said during a fire, wine grapes can absorb compounds from the smoke, leading to a smoke taint that causes wines to taste smoky, burnt, ashy, or even medicinal. And what they describe it as, it's called a smoke taint. When vineyards are exposed to smoke, grapes can absorb chemicals from the smoke. People say that sometimes they can taste it and it smells, or the wine will taste like licking an ashtray. I've never licked an ashtray, but also, when all the fires were going on up in Napa and Sonoma County, I was asking my daughter-in-law's dad, I was like, what do they do with all the grapes that are affected? And he said sometimes they have to destroy whatever the crops, depending on where they were. But sometimes they sell them and it becomes part of the blended wine. So it's mixed in with other ones that aren't necessarily, but are affected by it. But yeah, that's if you think about that, that's a big industry in Fredericksburg and all of those smoke.
I didn't realize that fire was that big, that it was causing. We could see the smoke in the air, but I told Holly, I said, that looks like it's 4 or 5 acres. But you're talking, it's much
almost
bigger.
10,000 acres.
Really?
Yeah, almost 10,000 acres. Isn't that
That's
nuts?
crazy. Yeah. And a friend of ours, Jenna, got evacuated from her home. She lives out kind of Stonewall area, I think. So
so I think, and walking around the Houston Rodeo, when we were driving there, it was so weird. Kendall lives up in Dallas, and the storm, or what do they call it, a sandstorm.
Yeah.
It looked
The
like
winds were howling
it
on
was. I'll
Saturday.
show you a picture when we're off the air, and it looked orange in her backyard, just of the sand. And when we were driving to Houston, same thing. We could see it in all of that sand and everything, picked up dust.
Yeah, I know. I think we're all feeling that right now. Do you know who Adam Carolla is?
I do. He's really funny. He used to have a show called The Man.
The Man Show.
The Man
yes,
Show, and
Adam
he
Carolla
was
of Man Show fame.
with I cannot stand the other guy that was on the Man Show with him, Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel, yeah.
I can't stand that guy.
Well, he posted a video last week. He has this Adam Carolla podcast now, which is very, very popular. I'm actually a big fan of Adam Carolla. He's doing a lot for the people that have been displaced in California.
Oh, really?
He's been trying to help navigate some of the bureaucracy there that people have or that are trying to rebuild.
Permitting and everything else.
My God,
And they
what
can't
a
even
nightmare.
pick up their own trash and stuff like that. So you have to have all the permits.
I don't know why people live in California anymore, but especially if your house burns down, it's probably a 3 to 4 or 5 year process to get it rebuilt. Whereas what it takes a year maybe in Texas. So and probably 3 or 4 months of that is working with insurance. Well, he posted a video from his podcast last week, trashing realtors. And he says, he goes on, it's a longer bit, but he goes on this social media clip for about 2 minutes talking about how real estate agents are worthless. He said, I was looking at this $2.5 million house and I asked the agent how big it was, and the agent said, let me look. And he was like, you should know that off the top of your head. And then he goes on this rant about, I went to this farmer's market and there was a lady there selling olive oil. And I asked her about her olive oil and she gave me a 15-minute sales pitch about how great her olive oil was, and it wasn't heated and it was cold pressed and why that's better and why it's healthier. And he goes, and you ask a realtor like the most basic question and they can't answer it.
Well, that's the wrong realtor then.
Well, I don't know. So here's the thing about that I think we're doing this to ourselves in the real estate industry. I think most people don't understand what a day in the life of a realtor looks like. And I try not to fill my head with stuff that I know I can easily get to. Like there's things I can look up real quick. Now, when I walk into a house to show it, I am going to look at the basics. But if somebody says, is there a deed restriction about having chickens? I won't know that off the top of my head, but I know where to go find that information.
Yeah.
So I'll say, you know what, let me go look that up. I think I kind of wanted to run, you did this a couple weeks ago, what your typical day looks like. I want to just kind of give a brief overview of what a typical day in the life of the realtor is, so people understand that agent is probably not lazy. That agent is juggling a million things and keeping that little piece of information that the house is 3,908 square feet in their head is not the most important thing to them. So I'll give you like the 30-second version. My day starts at 4 a.m. every day. I get up, I work
Already
out.
sounds like hell.
Yes, I get up, I work out. And the reason I work out, one of the reasons I work out so early, I'm a morning person, but by about 7:15, 7:30 every day, my phone starts going off with texts. This happened, that happened,
that
a
is
question
true.
for this. Yes. I usually answer my first emails at home till about 8 o'clock, and then I get in the shower and I come to the office. And so my day is built around appointments. I have appointments to show houses, appointments to list houses, and then all the meanwhile I'm working on contracts. And during all of that, I'm the president of the Dripping Springs Elite. I get questions about that. I get questions about contracts. When can we close? What about this? I get option periods going on. I'm juggling all this stuff. I'm not sitting around lazy. I'm working through a million different things. I think Adam Carolla needs to hang out with a realtor for a day and really get some perspective on what it looks like. It is from the average person looking at what I do and what you do on a daily basis, it's a giant shit show every day, but we keep it in line and we keep it moving forward.
I actually think that you and a lot of our Dripping Springs real estate professionals that we work with, you are the exception to the rule, because I do feel that there are a lot of lazy agents out there. Because being in this industry, not as long as you have been. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like I've been in a house, I can think of one right now. I've been in this house hundreds of times. over and over and over again, but I've also been in all these other houses.
Exactly.
hundreds of
That's
times.
my point.
And so when I go into this house, and if someone were to ask you, what is the square footage? I'm like, oh,
You probably know it, but I don't want to give them the wrong
Yes,
information.
exactly.
So I would probably in that case say, let me look real quick.
yeah, let
And
me.
it's not a cop
Yeah,
out.
let me
Like,
just-
why don't you continue to look around while I spend 15 seconds looking for that information for you?
I'm going to confirm that information. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
but there's
whatever.
a million other things that I know about the property
Yes.
right off the top of my head. But the sort of gist of all this for me is, this post on social media, Adam Carolla, it was actually a really funny bit. They were talking about nobody ever wakes up or grows up wanting to be a real estate agent. They wash out of something else and then they end up, I laughed out loud. But I think
That's
real
funny,
estate agents really need to be better on social media about showing the actual job, not the picture with the big plastic key and going to the golf tournament to volunteer, with your little
We
sign.
just posted something trying to put a sign in the yard the other day.
In a yard
and
in
that was,
Belterra. But that's my point is I almost want to do a time lapse of what our day looks like. And, you and me running in and out of the office and going between appointments and showing and contracts, it's like there's a lot going on.
You know what
there is no sitting around in our lives.
You know what I got out of when we did that video of us trying to put that sign in?
That you suck at hammering a
I
sign.
do. And when I was hammering, I heard you in the background, you go, now that makes a lot of sense. Do you remember saying
don't remember saying
I heard you say, oh, that makes a lot
you
of
know what? Now that you mention it's because whenever I would send you to go put up a sign, you'd be like, I can't get it in the ground. I'm like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense.
I am not. And this land
You were
out here
tapping
is
it like
so- No,
like
I
it was a
using-
tack.
I was using both hands. But if you look at that video, I look like Cousin It because my hair is all crazy. I'm like, ugh. So yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm still a big fan of Adam Carolla, but I'd love to have you come and follow us around on one of our days, Adam. I think you'd have a whole different perspective
need a
on
nap.
what life's
He'd
like.
need a
He
nap
would
and
need
a
a nap. But
margarita.
about halfway through, he's like, "Can we go to lunch, please? I'm tired."
A nap and a margarita.
Yeah.
So I have the craziest thing that I ran across, Steve. Just so funny. Okay, so me and my aliens and the drones
Yes.
and all the conspiracy theory stuff that I've talked about. So apparently in Utah there have been gnome sightings. You know what a gnome is, right?
It's a little
It's like a little
usually like a
garden.
yard
Okay,
ornament.
like,
Yes,
it's a gnome.
little pointy hat.
Looks like a
Oh
midget.
my gosh. Real life gnome sightings.
So they're called, I'm going to butcher this name. They're also called duendes. And so they're little elves that will steal children, cut off children's toes, and kidnap them. I don't know why they cut off children's toes.
Okay.
I have no idea. But, this is coming from the Mormon state where they can't have coffee, and they're seeing...
They're seeing maybe they need some caffeine. That's why they're seeing gnomes.
Maybe they just need a Dr. Pepper. I don't know what it is, but it stems from some. Most I guess wives' tales or what are these
They're
called?
fairy tales,
Fairy
I
tales.
think, yeah.
They kind of stem from some sort of truth, right? But they started happening hundreds of years ago. But for whatever reason, I don't know why all of a sudden Utah is starting to see these, but you're starting to see them. But so these gnomes. Okay, here's the deterrent. They only have 4 fingers. Okay?
Oh my God.
And if you run across one, okay, I want you to look at me. If you run across one, what you're supposed to do is hide one of your fingers.
Hide your fingers?
Hide your fingers so they think you're one of them.
Oh, and then they won't mess with you.
They won't mess with you. So, but in sign language, as if I can do this. You know what that is.
I do.
So, but yeah, so if you hide
I'll
your
have
thumb.
to show this one to Holly on
They'll
YouTube.
think you're one of
somehow.
them.
Yeah,
But
that's funny.
I just wanted to let you know because I know you guys go camping and I know you guys are doing this rim to rim and Grand Canyon.
Yes,
So and you're kind of up around in that area.
You know what's funny is it is not that much of a stretch. You're out in the woods in the middle of the night. There's nobody else around. You hear all these noises and sounds, and there's the winds blowing, and the trees are creaking together, and you see some little shadow.
And you think it's a gnome.
Well, there was one night we were in the tent, and I don't know, it was like the moon had backlit something, and we could see it, and I was like, there's a rabbit or something sitting on that log. Oh my gosh. And we sat there and watched it, and it's like, it's not moving. It's just sitting there. Maybe
You're not
it's just...
eating any magic mushrooms.
No. We were just we were enjoying looking at this rabbit sitting on this log. We woke up in the morning and it was a stick sticking out of the log. So it is not that much of a stretch to think somebody out in the woods saw something, a rabbit with something in its mouth, and imagine that it was a gnome.
I think it's a gnome.
Or
and it's
Bigfoot.
It's gonna eat your toes.
Yeah.
It's gonna eat your toes for sure.
So you started off the podcast talking about Elon Musk, who is part of Doge, and
who's rescuing? I think they're landing today. By the time this lands, isn't it funny that none of the news stations are talking about this?
Yeah, well, they don't want to celebrate any kind of success. You've heard that part of what Doge is doing is looking at the Department of Education.
Yes.
And they're downsizing the Department of Education, and possibly with the idea that eventually the Department of Education would go away
and go into the state's hands.
And states would go back to taking care of education, which I think is probably a pretty good idea, because most of the stuff that came out of the Department of Education was just real top-heavy, and kids, by any measure in the last 30 years since the Department of Education came out, which I think came out in the 70s, so it was longer than that.
Well, that makes sense. I'm a byproduct.
Yeah, but test scores on reading and math and arithmetic, and English, they've all gone down. Yeah, I know. They're right there. There you go. I'm a product of that. And so, there's people now looking at education and trying to figure out different ways to make it better. We're still this antiquated, kids go to school 8 hours. And there's a school in Austin called the Alpha School. And their whole thing, you still go to school, but their whole thing is you use self-paced learning. They incorporate AI. So each kid kind of learns at their own pace for 2 hours a day. They have found that if they do a real focused lesson on the core principles of education, they can get that done in 2 hours a day. So these kids are learning as much in 2 hours as somebody in a public school that goes for 8 hours.
I can see that. I mean, I think I have a lot of friends that have homeschooled. I homeschooled for 1 year, which my kids called vacation.
Yeah.
But I also see where if you are going to a higher education aspect, like I'm looking at my son who's in med school right now, it's structure. And so you need to have some sort of
this is not unstructured. So this is still structured.
But it's self-paced,
It's
right?
self-paced learning for the core stuff.
Okay.
The other 5 or 6 hours a day, they focus on life skills like public speaking, leadership, teamwork, and entrepreneurship.
Now that is something
those
I
are
could
skills
buy
you can
into.
learn in life.
Yes.
So
Balancing a
you
checkbook.
sit down. Yeah, you sit down. A lot of it is done online or on an iPad. You sit down and you learn those basic core subjects, and then you spend the rest of the day learning life skills about how to lead a team.
Can
or
I
how
go
to build
to
a
this
business.
school? Is it,
I know,
am I too
huh?
old?
Yeah, I know. So Mackenzie Price, she is the co-founder of the Alpha School in Austin. She says traditional schooling is outdated and filled with busy work. You don't have to go very far on any campus in this country for a public school and see how much busy work those kids are doing.
Yeah.
Moving between classes and the disruption and dealing with stuff that isn't really, they're not learning anything. They are learning some life skills, but social interaction, but they still get that in the Alpha School too. I actually think it's a really good idea. This Mackenzie Price says that students have guides, not teachers. So they're learning. Have you ever been in a class? Like I remember being in, I think it was it might have been geometry. I can't remember, but and getting a little bit behind, and the class just kept going. And I just got further and further and further behind. Whereas if I was learning at my own pace, I would have got the first step down and then got the second step. Even if the other kids were 2 or 3 steps in front of me, eventually I would have caught up because it would have been at my own pace. I would have learned each step along the way.
Well, you're also not going to have all the other kind of BS distractions that are going on. I don't know if you know this or not, I wasn't going to bring this up, but Sycamore Springs middle and elementary school, they were dealing with a, quote, furry problem there. And now they are passing some sort of, I didn't research this before I started talking about this, but they passed something to where these kids have to follow the dress code in some variation or form. But
I think we need to bring dress codes back in every school in the country.
They were very disruptive, very disruptive to the learning environment. And, it's like, come on, you're sending your kids to school to learn.
Anything that's disruptive to the learning overall just needs to be taken out of the schools. But this Alpha school, I just wanted to wrap it up with students from Alpha are in the top 2% in the country for the result, their test scores.
I'd like to reach
top
out
2%.
to this. Maybe we get her on.
Yeah, I would love
on the
to.
Podcast.
Yeah, I think we have done education a certain way for 100 years, and at this point, it's not working. And so we need to look at some other ideas.
I agree. Well, and speaking of schools, Holly's been in the school system for years, right?
27 years.
27 years.
At Texas School for the Deaf, yeah.
My grandmother was a teacher. She was on the school board. My aunt was a teacher. My father worked in the school district. My mother worked in the school district. I worked at Dripping Springs School District for 9 years. I was a sub.
As a sub,
I actually worked 1 year as an employee, and I hated it. And I actually found out I made more money as a sub than I did. But you know that they don't pay into the Social Security system. They pay into their teacher retirement, right? So when Holly retires, she's getting her retirement, not her Social Security, even though, did she have a job? She had a job.
She's had jobs before she got the Texas School.
So she's paid into the Social Security system. So the reason why I brought this up is because it just happened to my neighbor behind me. He was a fire chief out of California, and he's paid into the system. And he was like, I got this random check for $15,000 in my account. He goes, I didn't know what it was. Well, the Social Security Fairness Act was just passed, and it's no more unfair cuts. Some teachers, firefighters, police officers, so on and so forth, used to have their Social Security money reduced just because they got a government pension. This new law says no more. Now they get the full amount if they had already paid into the system prior, part-time jobs or whatever, which police officers do. They get these part-time jobs, to kind of supplement. So more people get more money. About 3 million workers will see their Social Security checks actually go up because of the old rules that took money away from them that are gone. And they're paying back what is missing. So if someone has lost money before because of this old rule, they will get some of that missing money back in a big payment, which is kind of what my neighbor did. But now...
But he didn't file for Social Security?
No, he couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't. And so...
But they just gave him the money anyway.
They gave him the money anyway. From now on, these workers will get larger Social Security checks every month, just like everyone else who has paid into the system. And the people who are affected will get a letter telling them how much more money they will get. He said that he's getting like an additional $1,400 a month. And he was like, well, you're giving it to me? Like, he already gets the government pension, but I think
and he gets a really good government pension.
That's
the thing. That's what drives me nuts. I'm going to...
But wait a minute. Look at Holly. Look, the man risked his life for 20
No, I get it, but he gets a very good retirement.
He does get a very good retirement. But I look at somebody like Holly, who's going to have my grandmother also, who lived off a teacher retirement. That's the system she paid into. And so she's paid into Social Security, and just because she's paid into it, the old rule said she wasn't going to get it. And now she...
Well, that's real. I mean, I think that's great. And, Holly's retirement is not going to be huge from the Texas School for the Deaf, but adding some Social Security on there will help her out a bunch.
I'm curious to see if this no tax on Social Security actually fully passes and what that exactly means, because I think you can only make up for jointly, you can only make up to $25,000, which is an old rule, I think back from the 70s. You can only make up to $25,000 if you were on Social
indexed
Security at all.
for inflation.
And so anything above that is taxed. So potentially, if Todd started taking it, he's 62, you're 62. If he started taking it now, anything above that $25,000, basically 85% of it, whatever, would be taxed.
Yeah.
Well, this no tax on Social Security, he could also, now he's 62, if he wanted to take it early, which I recommend, and most people, most financial advisors out there recommend it.
Mine didn't. Mine said wait till 70.
Oh yeah, there's like this cross.
I know there's like a cross, yeah.
So wouldn't you rather take your money now? Let's say you got $2,000 a month now, and you could invest that and make your own money grow.
Yes, if I could get, say it was $2,000 a month, and I could get it now, and it didn't matter how much my income was from our real estate and podcast business.
Yeah.
I would do that. Yeah, I would invest it.
Then also you could enjoy it now while you're still young to be able to go rim to rim to rim.
Well, now that's true, because I have friends that are in their 70s, and that was the advice he gave us, was do all these things while you can, because you are eventually going to get, you might have plenty of money when you're 75, but if you can't get out of the house because you got some kind of problem or you're sick or whatever, he goes, you'll regret not ever doing that stuff.
Yeah, and that's where I feel the same way. It's like, take it now. So Todd, I think if he started taking it now based on his salary, he would get like 34, he gets the max, $3,500 a month or whatever, but we would be taxed on the majority of that as it is right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this Social Security no
that.
tax. Yeah, I'm really interested. It's also has to do with what you would pay into Medicare too. It's like based on your income the last 2 years before you started taking it. But there's some big changes
I am not
going on.
looking forward to that part of my life where I have to navigate this morass of just crap to get on Medicare and Social Security and all that. It's like there are people that you go to that are consultants that help you figure out how to get through all that.
I agree, and I think that this just overreach of government bureaucracy, especially for our seniors, why are you making it so difficult for them to understand?
It doesn't need to be that hard. It doesn't need to be this hard.
I don't get that.
Yeah,
I don't
all
get
these
that.
little carve-outs and donut holes and part B and part C and part Z and like, who freaking knows?
I know. Maybe Jovi, we should ask Jovi. Jovi should host some sort of
I think they do, yeah. I think
That
they
would
have
be-
something like that, yeah. We
That
would
would be
definitely,
interesting.
yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So, we've totally forgot.
You completely forgot to talk about our guest, Michelle.
We forgot to talk about our guest.
I had it on my list. I did forget.
Morgan Slaughter. I love this kiddo. She is a little bubble of sunshine. She is from Louisiana. And she is the event coordinator and publication director for Dripping Springs City Lifestyle. But I have known her since she's moved here to Dripping Springs. She came out here a couple of years ago. And, it's an interesting take why this young girl would leave her family in Louisiana and come out here to Dripping and build a
up in
life.
Dripping,
So we're going to sit down with her in a couple minutes. And
all right. Well,
Pick a
hang
brain.
on. Yeah, good. I'm looking forward to it. Hang on, sit tight. We'll be right back with Morgan Slaughter. Okay. Thank you for joining us.